This is Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app. Now, live from the Matt Black Kia Studios.
What a move!
Here's Josh Hennig.
I am Josh Hennig. This is Game Night, and the Philadelphia Eagles starting quarterback for NFL Week 14 will be Jalen Hurts. That's right. The Eagles announced earlier today, as you probably heard already here on 97.3 ESPN FM, or you saw at 97.3 ESPN.com, or you got the alert from the 97.3 ESPN mobile app. Jalen Hurts will be starting for the Philadelphia Eagles this Sunday. We got to get into that. We will talk the Eagles, their situation, the NFC East, and more coming up with Reid Fowler from DraftKings coming up at 6:20 p.m. We'll get more into the NFL schedule. Don't forget, tonight, Tuesday Night Football is back again. It is the Ravens. It is the Cowboys. You can hear all the action right here on 97.3 ESPN. Coverage begins at 7:45. So we got a lot to get to, a lot of football this hour, but we got to start with the Jalen Hurts news. I'm not surprised that the Eagles decided to start Jalen Hurts. I'm not. Am I a little surprised by the timing? Absolutely. Am I a little surprised that, the Philadelphia Eagles are in a situation like this? Not really, because let's be realistic. We all believe that the Eagles drafted a quarterback, they'd be in this situation. But you know what the Philadelphia Eagles are? The Philadelphia Eagles are an organization that doesn't have a direction. And it's purely because of their quarterback situation. The moment that they allowed this season to progress the way it has, we knew we could end up here. And as I said yesterday, there's a lot of people who are at fault for this. Because let's be realistic. If the quarterback played better, he wouldn't get benched. If the head coach had better play calling, he wouldn't have to bench starting quarterback. If there wasn't so many injuries, maybe the quarterback doesn't get sacked so many times. Maybe if the team made better decisions from top to bottom, they wouldn't be a miserable football team. But here we are. And now you have to ask the question, what's the end game for all this? Because if you're going to tell me that Jalen Hurts is going to win the rest of the games this year and put you in a position to win the NFC East, I'm probably going to tell you you're nuts. But what I am going to tell you is that what Jalen Hurts does bring to the table is something different. Frankly, I don't care how many guys like Carson Wentz, love Carson Wentz, think highly of Carson Wentz. It's of no consequence to me. What is of consequence to me is that there's a lot of people that I like, that I'm friends with, but I don't want them doing certain jobs. I don't care how many guys in that locker room think Carson Wentz is a great leader. You can be a great leader and be a bum of a quarterback. Listen, I like Hunter Brody. Hunter Brody's a good dude. But there are some things I don't want Hunter doing, like fixing my car. I'm going to go find someone who can fix cars, who's not Hunter Brody. It's just the reality. You can give me all the superlatives. And we were all, I feel, duped by it, right? I feel like we were all tricked into this love of Carson Wentz. He's a family man. He believes in Jesus. He goes to church. He has a Bible study. He raises charity for people in Haiti. He wants to help children in the community. He's from North Dakota. He has a longtime girlfriend. They got married. He likes dogs. He likes hunting. I feel like everything about Carson Wentz was straight out of central casting. Except the one thing that was most important. And that's playing football. Yeah, he had some great moments. But the fact that it took us until week 13 to put Carson Wentz in his place tells me that this Eagles organization is a bit rudderless. And now you have a young quarterback, a rookie, who has arguably a more impressive resume than Carson Wentz. A young man whose background is way more impressive. Don't forget that Jalen Hurts is the son of a football coach. He played for two of the most storied programs in college football history. He was so much of a leader at Alabama that when Tua Tagovailoa took his job, the Nick Saban still named Jalen Hurts a captain of the football team. And when he got to Oklahoma, he followed in the same footstep of guys like Kyler Murray and Baker Mayfield, who all under Lincoln Riley took a huge step forward in their development as quarterbacks. There is nothing about Jalen Hurts that you wouldn't want as your quarterback. And in some ways, you root for him to be successful. He has the physical tools to be an NFL quarterback. Now, you could argue, can he win for the Philadelphia Eagles? I have no idea. We're going to find out, though. I think he can win. I think that his skill set, which I think is a blend of Russell Wilson and Dak Prescott, is kind of like an in-between of those two guys. He can be successful in the NFL. The question is the team around him equipped well enough to help him be successful? 609-403-0973, theplaysugarhouse.com text board. The moment the news broke earlier this afternoon, Jeff Saturday, former Colts and Packers center, all-pro, was on SportsCenter. And he reacted to Jalen Hurts being named the starting quarterback. Take a listen.
I'm not sure that the Eagles' offense is really set up to help Jalen Hurts be successful. Receiving core, it's not like these guys are making a ton of plays. Your offensive line has been just decimated by injuries. I think they've had 10 or 11 different combinations of starters. So from a Jalen Hurts perspective, when you want to see him progress or kind of develop into a quarterback, I would have thought the rotation was still the best opportunity. Obviously, Doug Peterson didn't agree, decided to go wholesale change.
And I think part of the reason why Jeff Saturday is overlooking that Doug Peterson is going this wholesale change is because there are moments in every single football game that Carson Wentz has made a poor throw, a bad decision, the wrong move at the line of scrimmage, that Wentz has done something every single week for 13 straight weeks that makes Eagle fans either want to throw their smartphone at the television and break their television, or they want to turn off the game. Every single week, Carson Wentz does something that exasperates Eagle fans. So for the Philadelphia Eagles, it's less about the supporting cast around Hurts, as Saturday pointed out, than it is about the fact that the current starting quarterback is not good enough. And it's as simple as that. And you know what? Maybe the message isn't getting through to Wentz. Maybe there is something going on behind the scenes that we don't know about. Maybe Carson Wentz was doing great in practice and great in the meeting room, and week after week it's just not translating onto the field. Whatever the reason was, they kept sticking with him. It's a problem. And now we finally have a change. And now we're going to see how the Philadelphia Eagles look with Jalen Hurts. Text board is open, 609-403-0973, the PlaySugarHouse.com. Text board, 609-403-0973. Still to come, NFL analyst Reid Fowler will join us coming up at 6:20 tonight to get more into the NFC East and the Philadelphia Eagles. Of course, Dallas Cowboys play the Baltimore Ravens tonight. You know the action at 7:45 here on 97.3 ESPN. 609-403-0973 on the PlaySugarHouse.com text board. Joey D. in Ventnor says, when people say Wentz sat for 2 quarters and he hasn't learned anything, What is Wentz supposed to learn by sitting? He's not fixing his mechanics or his accuracy. He needs the right coach that will actually help him sharpen his craft instead of criticizing him. Good for Hurts for now. That's Joey D. and Ventnor. Joey D. also goes on to say he's excited for Hurts to take the position and be a viable quarterback moving forward. So a couple things. Number one, sometimes you need to make somebody hit rock bottom for them to realize they're doing something wrong. Now, I don't know if Carson Wentz having to be benched is really rock. Maybe for him it's rock bottom. He's had a pretty smooth life. So, maybe this is the kind of reality check that he needs. But you're right, Joey D. His mechanics, his accuracy, his decision making, those are things that cannot be fixed unless you're willing to fix them. They always say in AA, the first step to fixing a problem is admitting you have a problem. And I'm not even fully sure if Wentz fully admits he has a problem. I think there's a part of Carson that thinks, oh, I can do this. Oh, I'm good. I'm fine. And you say, Joey D, sharpen his craft instead of criticizing him. Well, it's partially on Carson Wentz not be so sensitive. The Philadelphia Eagles have walked on eggshells around this guy for a couple of years now. And at some point, he has to be willing to take the criticism. He has to be somebody who says, you don't think I can do this? Watch me. He's got to own it. He's got to take the bull by the horns. And listen, if Carson Wentz is a hypersensitive dude who gets his emotions roughed up, who can't take criticism and needs to be handheld through everything, then I don't want him for my starting quarterback. If you can't accept criticism when you're playing like garbage, then we got a problem with you. See, one of the problems with the Wentz stuff is nobody wants to accept who are either supporting Wentz or people who have liked Carson Wentz. And I can say this because I was one of the biggest Carson Wentz advocates on planet Earth for a very long time. I was a huge fan of him coming out of college. I was a huge believer in him coming into the NFL draft. I advocated for him after year one here on 97.3 ESPN after he had a rough rookie season at times. I believed in him coming back from the injury. I told people to give him a chance in 2019. I believed that he would have a build upon the final 4 games of last year's season this year. But what turned me around was the fact that when he makes mistakes and he does the wrong thing, there's almost this attitude of, well, why did that happen? That doesn't make any sense. Or he has these tendencies that make you worry about his psyche. And if you are that fragile, and if you are that delicate, and you cannot take things to the next level on your own, and you need someone to take you there, then you probably shouldn't be an NFL starting quarterback. Let's get one more text in here before we hit the break. 609-403-0973. Reid Fowler from DraftKings will join us coming up right after 6:20 tonight. 609-403-0973. Steven Ventnor chimes in and says, how about the Eagles trade Wentz to the Colts for a first-round pick? He'd be reunited with Frank Reich. They need a quarterback. All right, so I know that the Wentz to Indianapolis is the biggest thing out there for a lot of Eagle fans. Couple problems with that. Number one, in order to trade Wentz, you're going to either need to accept the fact that you're eating a huge amount of that contract, or you're going to have to do some financial gymnastics and rework the deal before trading him. It's a lot of money to be reworked. Is there a way to do it? Probably. I don't know if anybody's really willing to rework the money, because of the fact that you're basically going to have to tell Wentz he's got to accept less money short term in order to get out of Philadelphia. And I'm not fully sure Wentz wants to do that because I think there's a part of Wentz that still wants to play in Philadelphia. The problem with the Colts is, Steven Ventnor, you're assuming that the Colts want him. I don't know all the details of what Frank Reich's relationship is with Carson Wentz specifically. I know that Reich and Peterson had a great relationship, but I'm not knowledgeable of Wentz relationship. Okay? So when I think about them trading him, I have to wonder, when it comes to the Colts, does Frank Reich really want Carson Wentz that bad? And whether it's a first-round pick or a fifth-round pick or whatever pick it may be that you would trade Wentz for, I know that we all believe that Frank Reich and Carson Wentz reunited would be so good, blah, blah, blah. But there's no guarantee the Colts even want him. There's no guarantee that Frank Reich even wants him. There's no guarantee that would even work out if he got traded there. In fact, there's a lot of reports out there that Frank Reich and John DeFilippo were hard on Wentz. They coached him hard. They pushed him. They pressed him. They fought with him on different things. You know, if Carson Wentz is maybe hypersensitive and gets all up in his feelings and, you know, can't take some of the push, maybe Wentz doesn't want to play for Frank Reich. Maybe part of the reason he likes playing for Doug Peterson is because Peterson has to step on eggshells around him. We'll get to more of your texts in just a bit at 609-403-0973, 609-403-0973 to get on the conversation. I'm Josh Hennig. This is Game Night on 97.3 ESPN FM. We'll continue our conversation about the NFC East, the Eagles, and more with Reid Fowler coming up next. Don't forget the 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Seattle City.
You're listening to Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app.
Josh Hennig here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. Of course, tonight is Tuesday Night Football. Ravens versus Cowboys. You can hear all the coverage starting tonight at 7:45 right here on 97.3 ESPN. And join me now to talk more NFL. Reid Fowler, DraftKings, NFL and PGA analyst. Follow him on Twitter at Reid T. Fowler. Reid, how you doing today?
Good, Josh. How are you, bud?
Doing good. So let's first start with last night. I mean, last night was absolutely bonkers. We had another of these Monday doubleheaders, and Alex Smith finds a way to help Washington beat the Steelers and end their perfect season. And, you know, while the 72 Dolphins are happy, I think the person that's even more happy is the NFL Comeback Player of the Year, Alex Smith.
Yeah, and probably the Pittsburgh Steelers, to be honest. Right? They don't have to worry about this. And like for our sakes, it'd be great to keep on talking about if they won. Okay, well, where's the next opportunity for them to lose? Is it a Buffalo next week? Could it be Cincinnati a trap game because they're looking ahead to Indianapolis? I mean, I'm sure Mike Tomlin, and he said it earlier after the game, is that, you know, if you can't gain a yard, then you don't deserve to win. And they had 5 opportunities to score at the half-yard line, and they weren't able to do it. And if you look at Washington, right, this is what I thought was interesting throughout the game is they only sent an extra blitzer, like a handful of times, and they rushed just with those 4 guys, and they got it done. They stuck to their game plan. If you were playing fantasy or DFS and you had Terry McLaurin, it was a pretty tough game to stomach and to watch Alex Smith just go to his first option. And if it wasn't there, then he would just dump it off to J.D. McKissick, or sometimes that was his first option. But then this is the thing, too, about Washington, right, is that Alex Smith does have a cap on some of these guys like Terry McLaurin. We thought McLaurin was quarterback proof. This game kind of showed you maybe he had that injury that was a little bit more nagging than usual. But this showed that there is a floor to Terry McLaurin, not necessarily because of what he's done so far this season, but Alex Smith, he's not a guy that goes through his progressions too much, especially against that Pittsburgh Steelers team. And that's probably what he was told to do. It's like, hey, if your first option isn't there, like, let's go to the next play.
Now, we had 2 NFC East teams pull off huge upsets on Sunday and Monday. The Giants over the Seahawks, Washington over the Steelers. They're right now the 2 teams on top of the NFC East. So if you had to go put your money where your mouth is and you had to make a wager, who do you think is going to win the division?
Boy, when you take a look at scheduling, I think the best odds, right, is where I want to put my money, might be on Philadelphia. right? Like the best odds right now for that division, and this is what we saw, or this is what we're seeing throughout the year, is that the teams that are in this division are 2 behind, maybe a game behind. That's kind of where you want to go because that's the best odds, and you see these teams kind of exchange blows and go to the top of the leaderboard here in this division. And the Eagles, and what we said about Carson Wentz in season long in DFS, is that the Eagles have the easiest schedule for the rest of the way, right? They do. And when you take a look at the Giants and the Washington football team, they have a pretty tough schedule. Now, Washington winning last night puts them at plus 150 in the DK Sportsbook to win the NFC East. And that's where I'd probably go. Having to pay minus 143 for the Giants I think is maybe a fool's errand, right? They won that game, but remember Pete Carroll back when Russ was semi-cooking, and then you saw those games where he wasn't doing so hot and he was throwing interceptions. He mentioned to the media saying we need to get back to our identity, which is running the ball first. And you saw that against the Giants, is that they were running the ball, even though Chris Carson wasn't 100%. They ran the ball, and that played right into the Giants' hands. And their run defense is fantastic. And so the Seahawks, when you look at their games, there's an asterisk by it because you have those type of Pete Carroll games. So I would say plus 150 Washington, the best odds were maybe Jalen Hurts, if he's a starting quarterback, gets this team going. Philadelphia, we know Philadelphia makes runs towards the end of regular season to get into the playoffs. They're plus 1,400. And Jalen Hurts, he could spark this team.
Reid Fowler joining me here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. Make sure to follow him on Twitter at Reid T. Fowler for all your NFL and PGA Tour analysis. Reid, you mentioned Jalen Hurts. That's the hot topic here in the South Jersey, Delaware Valley region. Hurts, versus Wentz. Do you stick with Hurts? Do you go back to Wentz? Doug Peterson on Monday, he told the media, I haven't made a decision yet. Talk about a strange situation to be in. You got one quarterback drafted in the second round. You have another quarterback who's a $100 million man.
Yeah, and those are the two things, right? It's the business decision, which is we have to pay this guy, so we should be playing him. No one wants a depreciating asset. Or is it let's look at what we have right now and getting Jalen Hurts some invaluable experience as it is right now. We kind of saw this with, and this is not the same, but Lamar Jackson, when he came in towards the end of that season, and Joe Flacco was out, that was his team from now on. And those 3 or 4 games is going to speed you up, especially with no preseason. Those games and that experience is invaluable. I don't really see how you go back to Carson Wentz. I don't see how a guy that turns the ball over a ton, who's probably more worried than he's leading off about those injuries that he's gotten over the past couple of years, because similar to like Alex Smith, and you saw that with him as well, and rightfully so, is that if those first or second options aren't there, when that pocket closes and compresses, he's not looking downfield, Carson Wentz. He's just trying to salvage something, whether it be a long pass or trying to, salvage his career and not get completely banged up. That's what's happening. And with Philadelphia, you're seeing Miles Sanders not get a lot of touches. The teams are loading the box, and they know they can defend against Carson Wentz because he can't throw the ball deep and he's not accurate. So I think you have to go with Jalen Hurts if you want this season to be something more than just experience for your rookie quarterback and the future of your organization. So I think from a business standpoint and from a future standpoint, it makes sense to stick with Hurts.
Right now it's looking pretty grim for the Eagles to make the postseason, Reid. And I got to wonder, looking at this team, is the clock running out on Doug Peterson? You can't really get rid of the quarterback unless you do some financial gymnastics. If Hurts plays well, what does that say about the organization? I know a lot of people in this area hate Howie Roseman. I feel like every Eagle fan you might talk to will tell you Howie Roseman stinks. So, how do you assess this from the outside looking in?
Yeah, where do you begin? I think if you're Philadelphia, you're faced with an uphill battle like everyone else, right? With no preseason, but at the same time, injuries have plagued Philadelphia for the last couple of years. Alshon Jeffrey has been in and out of lineups. Deshaun Jackson has been in and out of lineups. That offensive line, you talk about gymnastics. This offensive line has been, turned around. Guys have come back to only, to go out again in that very next game. And so you're faced with an uphill battle if you're Doug Peterson, because the injuries have plagued you so much, and you have these sort of, like you were mentioning, Josh, higher priced guys on the payroll that you can't really do much about. Having said that, you have 4 games coming up: the Saints, Cardinals, Cowboys, and Washington football team. Look, the Saints, we know what they are right now. They're Taysom Hill and Michael Thomas, and Alvin Kamara gets seldomly used, but you kind of know what the Saints are, which is similar to kind of what the Eagles could look like: a strong defense, a running quarterback that's athletic, that you have to win these games, these 16, 17 to 20 to 22 games. You have to win those. I would argue that if you win the next 2 out of the 4, right, whether it be the Saints, Cardinals, whether it be Cowboys, Saints, 2 out of the next 4, you're going to feel good about how the season ended, because a guy like Jalen Hurts got you to 500 in the last 4 games. But yeah, I think you're going to have to blow this up a little bit, right? Because Eagles fans, you guys, and you know it too, Josh, more than most people, is that nothing outside of playoffs and Super Bowl matters. And if you're not winning games, and you're not even coming close to winning games, then yeah, your heads are going to proverbially roll in that organization.
Absolutely. We actually had somebody call into the station yesterday, and he was so depressed. He's like, I miss winning. All I want to do is go back to winning. So, Eagle fans, let's be realistic, they've been a little spoiled, between Andy Reid and now Doug Peterson. The last 20 years have been pretty nice.
Sure.
If you're a franchise like the Lions or the Browns, except for this year with the Browns, but in general, there's a lot of franchises looking around and be like, dude, you guys have it good, while Eagle fans are like, this is horrible. Right. It's just so funny that when you take away the context, that people don't realize how good Eagles fans have had it.
Right, and that's true with other teams as well, right? Like Steelers fans, or people who think the Steelers are a fraud. Like you mentioned, right? You have these fan bases that are so passionate about their teams, Philadelphia being probably second to none, to be honest, right? In terms of, from a totality, from like a standpoint. And I know my New York friends are going to probably debate me until they're red in the face about that. But when you look at the 76ers, the Eagles, and you just look at the Phillies, there is a level of success and excellence that comes with Philadelphia sports teams. But you also have to realize, like you're mentioning, Josh, like there are other organizations out there that are not even close, right? So you have to take this with a grain of salt. And the one thing that if it's not a success right away, it's hope, right? Can we give our team hope? That's what the Dolphins did last year towards the end of the season with Brian Flores. That's what Doug Peterson, that's what the Falcons did last year when Quinn's job was when he was on the hot seat, and they went on that winning streak. It salvaged his job for the next 4 or 5 games. That's what you need if you're a Philly fan, is hope. And like I mentioned, 2 out of the next 4 games, you get some excitement from Jalen Hurts. That's what you got to look forward to, because right now Carson Wentz, 17 points in the last 3 games, 16 against Green Bay, and then 17 each of the last 3 against the Giants, Browns, and Seahawks. That's just not going to cut in Philly.
Reid Fowler joining us here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. Make sure to follow him on Twitter at Reid T. Fowler for your NFL as well as PGA Tour analysis. Reid, let's touch on the other NFC East team. They're playing tonight. Folks can hear it right here on 97.3 ESPN. Cowboys and Ravens. Lamar Jackson, he's coming back. Cowboys, they're kind of an enigma because they beat the Vikings. They get destroyed by Washington by the end of that game. I mean, for goodness sake, their strength and conditioning coach dies. He's like the heart and soul of a locker room, right? And they can't even get up in the honor of that guy's memory. Andy Dalton is Andy Dalton. Jerry Jones is up there pacing around looking miserable as ever. And then you got a Ravens team that's coming into basically like, well, we're losing a lot more games than we expected here.
Yeah. They're, in terms of their scheduling, and I saw Steve Kornacki on Sunday Night Football, so it was good to see him doing all the playoff projections. It got me excited to look at percentages and numbers again. So shout out Steve Kornacki. But yeah, I mean, they're outside looking in, right? The Baltimore Ravens are. And this is weird to say that. What is their offense right now? Right, they're 6-5. They're in that ninth spot. Their schedule looks pretty good coming down the pike to make the playoffs. But once they get there, what's going to be their identity? Right now, Lamar Jackson is being inefficient. He's still going to be a quarterback one for all intents and purposes, right? You're not worried about that from a fantasy perspective. But what is their offense? They've had this three-headed monster at running back, but we know Gus Edwards, Mark Ingram. That's not the answer. I hope that they see J.K. Dobbins in this game absolutely shell out, and sort of like the DeAndre Swift dynamic in Detroit happens with J.K. Dobbins. But yeah, the Ravens right now, you got to figure out what your identity is. You're getting a lot of guys back. Calais Campbell in this defensive line is getting healthier. That's going to be huge. But if you go to the Dallas side, you're right, Josh. Like this is when you talk about fans, right, who are maybe more higher on their team, the hubris, if you will, of a Dallas Cowboys fan. Like it's the opposite, right? They think they should be better than they are, but right now they are not. And the defense really, like Dak Prescott on the offense, of course, you see that efficiency go down. But this defense has been atrocious. They cannot stop the run. They're great against pass-catching running backs, but they cannot stop the run. They cannot stop the pass. And when you get a guy like Lamar Jackson come in who needs something to right the ship, Marquise Brown and all of these guys, they'll be without Mark Andrews. This is the type of game, if you're Baltimore, that you need to win, and you need to win in that type of fashion. And be thankful that you have a team like Dallas, because right now they've been the doormat of this division, and that's weird to say, especially coming into it thinking that Dallas had a really good shot. Obviously, Dak Prescott going down hurt their chances once that happened.
Yeah, I think hubris is an excellent word to use for Cowboy fans. And speaking of the Cowboys, you mentioned fantasy. You know, when you look at some of the players on the Cowboys, Ezekiel Elliott, he was a first-round pick in everybody's draft. CeeDee Lamb is supposed to be the sleeper in people's draft. There are a lot of people were leaning on Amari Cooper. This has been a really rocky year if you are a fantasy footballer, because there's a lot of money invested in Elliott and Cooper and a first-round pick in the Lamb, and the Cowboys are just not getting the offensive production ever since Dak went down.
Yeah, and let's take Cooper, for instance, right? I think what we saw with Cooper with Dak Prescott was we was spoiled, right, with Cooper and Dak Prescott, where you saw the massive games that he had. And we thought, yeah, I mean, especially in season long, Cooper was a great value. But let's take a look at two guys, right? And this was before last night. And last night didn't really change anything. Terry McLaurin. We think Terry McLaurin is this week in, week out wide receiver 2 with one upside, which is true outside of yesterday. Cooper has 98 targets, 71 receptions, 848 yards, and 3 touchdowns. McLaurin has 104 targets, 71 receptions, the 14 extra yards that he got, so 970 plus yards, and also the same touchdowns. And so it's this idea, right, that right now, without Dak Prescott, we think Cooper is not a valuable asset. Well, he still is, but we don't get those ceiling games anymore. So I'm not necessarily worried about him as long as Andy Dalton is in. But it's a guy like CeeDee Lamb that kind of scares me, because you saw what he was with Dak Prescott. You saw the coverages try to stop guys like Ezekiel Elliott, try to stop Dalton Schultz, who was a thing for that time that Dak Prescott was out, try to stop Amari. And CeeDee Lamb was the beneficiary of just single coverage. And we know CeeDee Lamb is one of the best route runners in college, and now he's showing it. He's scary more so than a guy like Cooper. I'm okay with Cooper, especially if Dalton is in. If he's not, then all of these guys take a massive hit.
Reid, more and more before I let you go, and I always appreciate the time and the conversation. You know, looking ahead, you mentioned them doing the projections on the board, you know, the path to the playoffs. You know, what is their road on Sunday? I got to ask you, are the Ravens going to make the playoffs? Because right now they're on the outside looking in. I think there's a lot of people who are doing a lot of head scratching. There's a lot of people who projected the Ravens not just to make the playoffs, but maybe be in the AFC Championship.
Yeah, like we talked about, they're in that 9th spot, I believe, one behind the Raiders, who got a miracle. They got an early Christmas present, early holiday present from the Jets and Greg Williams. But I think so, right? I think the road, they have to win tonight, right? If they lose tonight, that's 4 straight. It's going to be tough, even with that extra spot. If you look at the AFC, and like the Raiders, they're kind of suspect as well. They wanted a miracle play with the Jets. They got absolutely run out of the house with Atlanta, and they lost to the Kansas City Chiefs. But you look at the Ravens' next schedule, or the next handful of games, right? Dallas, Cleveland, Jacksonville, Giants, Cincinnati. Right? The Giants showed that they're a better team than a lot of us thought. Their defense is strong. Cleveland, Cleveland's kind of getting that, are they really this good type of treatment? The Green Bay Packers, really, of this year, are they really this good? I think so. I think you have a strong run game with a defense that's getting healthier. But that Jacksonville-Cincinnati game, or Jacksonville Jaguars and the Cincinnati Bengals game, you would think that those two are going to go to the Ravens. So I think they do win the next 3 or 4 out of the 5. And if that's the case, they're going to be sitting pretty in the playoffs. So I do think that it happens, because that schedule is fairly easy when you take a look at it for a team like the Ravens, and how they match up with those next 5.
He's Reid Fowler. Make sure you follow him on Twitter at Reid T. Fowler for all your NFL and PGA Tour analysis all year long, and all of the stuff he does with DraftKings. As all guests, he appeared on the Boardwalk Honda Hotline. Reid, always appreciate the time. Great stuff.
All right, Josh, take care.
Always appreciate Reid Fowler jumping on the show. This is Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. We'll back your text coming up next, 609-403-0973. We got a text from Don in Atlantic City. We got text from Ryan in the Villa. So we'll get to your guys' texts coming up next on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN FM and the 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Sea Isle City.
Now, more Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app.
We'll get back to your text in just a moment at 609-403-0973 on the PlaySugarHouse.com text board. I want to remind you that Game Night tonight is being brought to you by WeightliftingHQ.com. 2020 is almost over, and we're all glad for that, but that also means with the year being over, it's time for you to figure out who you're going to buy what for on your Christmas list. And whether you're buying it for yourself, you gift yourself sometimes, or you're buying it for that person in your life that you care about, that you want to help them achieve their health and fitness goals in 2021, well, you can do it with weightliftinghq.com. Weightliftinghq.com is a local company located right here in South Jersey. They operate fully online, and they cater to health and fitness enthusiasts as well as weightlifters looking to work out from home. They offer high-end weightlifting and fitness equipment available to be delivered right to your home, like bench and squat racks, kettlebells, dumbbells, cardio and fitness machines, as well as accessories like heart rate sensors, fitness watches, resistance bands, and more. So whether you're trying to get a full home workout gym or you want some workout equipment and equipment from home that you can supplement what you do at the gym each week, weightliftinghq.com is here for you. And now you can get 10% off your entire order with code RADIO10 at checkout at weightliftinghq.com. It's RADIO10 at checkout for 10% off your entire order. Don't wait. Get ahead of 2021 and your goals with weightliftinghq.com. As promised, 609-403-0973 on the PlaySugarHouse.com text board. Ryan in the Villas chimes in. He says, Wentz needs a retreat to Costa Rica. Sure, Ryan. I'm not even fully sure going to Costa Rica or anything is going to help Wentz at this point. I don't think that's his problem. I think what Wentz needs at this point is there needs to be someone who he honestly trusts in his life. Someone who he's willing to accept constructive criticism from. To sit him down and say, Carson, I need you to watch tape with me. It doesn't have to be a football savant. It doesn't have to be a former quarterback. It doesn't matter who it is. Someone needs to sit down with him and show him his bad mechanics. Show him the plays where he's not scanning the field, where he's looking right at a receiver and refuses to throw him the ball because he's 5 yards down the field instead of 25 yards down the field. And when Wentz turns to that person and says, come on, man, I've seen these plays before. I've been and tell him, no, Don't tell me you've seen these plays before. You're going to watch these plays until you get it through your thick skull that this is not how you play football. And then, after you run through every bad play he had this year, you make him sit down the next day and say, all right, Carson, we're going to watch your games from North Dakota. And you're going to see how you used to play, the reason why you were the second overall pick. And then the next day, sit him down and say, all right, Carson, we're going to watch 2017. And you're going to see why you were considered this elite NFL prospect. And after he has 3 days of film watching, this person who he trusts, whoever this person is, needs to sit him down and say, Carson, if you can't absorb and apply the information that I just showed you, you are going to forever be known as a loser and a bust by NFL people. And that might not matter to you too much because you care about your wife and your family and your dogs and your kid and all that kind of stuff. But Carson, your reputation is on the line right now. You need to break the perception of you that you are a broken quarterback with an unshakable ego. That's what Carson Wentz needs right now. 609-403-0973 on the PlaySugarHouse.com text board. Don in Atlantic City chimes in. Says, I've been an Eagles fan for a long time, and I think Doug Peterson should sit the older players and play the kids. I'd like to see what kind of talent we actually got. Well, Don AC, I think you're going to see more of the young guys play, not just because of the injuries that have accumulated, but because also when you're 3-8-1, your season is kind of signed, sealed, and delivered at this point. I don't have faith the Eagles are going to beat the Saints. I think there's an outside chance you could beat the Cardinals because their defense is just not very good. And Kyler Murray's been exposed a little bit this year, but I don't think the Eagles have the personnel to really go after Kyler Murray. But I think the Cardinals are at least a weaker team than maybe we thought about a month or two ago. I think if the Eagles found a way to turn around their season, they have more faith in them to win out the schedule. The problem is that when you didn't beat the Giants coming off the bye, the way you lost to the Browns, it just kind of cemented that this team is a lost cause in many ways. And I hear what you're saying, Don and AC. Yeah, you want to see the young players. You want to see what the young guys got so you know exactly what the Eagles are working with moving forward. Sometimes you just need the experience if you're an athlete. Sometimes as an athlete, you need to be able to go out there and play. And that's also why I'm okay with Jalen Hurts playing, no matter what the result is tomorrow night. I'm Sunday afternoon. My days are all mixed up here. But when the Eagles play on Sunday afternoon, you have to let Jalen Hurts go out there and just succeed or fail. You're not going to get better if you don't work at your craft, if you don't try, if you don't get tape on yourself that you can learn from your mistakes. Doesn't matter, what sport it is. The more you play, the more you can learn from your failures and your successes. Let Hurts go out there. Let him take his licks. Let him learn. So you, as an organization and the Eagles fan base and everybody involved can see exactly what they have in Jalen Hurts. Because you're never going to find out if you don't put him out there. 609-403-0973 on the PlaySugarHouse.com text board. And just one more final point on the Jalen Hurts stuff. And obviously, we've covered a good amount of ground today here in just an hour. This was a guy that I was very high on coming out of college, Jalen Hurts. And part of it was because of the intangibles. He has everything you want from a leader, from a quarterback, from an athlete, in every way. And the one thing he has over Carson Wentz is I think that he's a little bit more socially adjusted than Carson Wentz is. Carson Wentz came from North Dakota, isolated from a lot of the world, didn't grow up and experience a lot of life that was any different than his own personal life. Whereas Jalen Hurts grew up in much different environment. He was much more socially adapted, acclimated. He went to Alabama. He went to Oklahoma. He's lived a little more. So I think that there might be a possibility that he can identify with his teammates better than Carson Wentz has. All right, finishing up the hour. Don't forget tonight, Baltimore Ravens versus Dallas Cowboys. You know the action, 7:45 here on 97.3 ESPN. Tomorrow and Thursday, no game night. I'll be filling in for Mike Gill from 2 to 6 on the Sports Bash. So there'll be no game night the next 2 nights. Just Sports Bash coverage from 2 to 6 all afternoon long with yours truly on 97.3 ESPN. Tomorrow I'll be in with Hunter Brody. On Thursday I'll be reunited with my man Deshaun Hendricks. So got a lot to talk about this week. I'm sure we got a lot to get into the next couple days. Appreciate everybody who texts in. Appreciate everybody who joined the conversation. Vincent Galloway, shout out to you. Appreciate you listening. Appreciate you chiming in on the text board. I'm Josh Hennig. You follow me on Twitter at Josh Hennig. Hennig spelled Hennig. Have a great night, everybody.